So hey everybody, I'm Monica Wilkinson. I run application engineering under IT for Slack. Before I get started, I thought I would describe Slack for those of you who may not be familiar. So Slack is a platform for teams and businesses of all sizes to communicate effectively. I memorized that. So we were launched in 2014, and we've seen great growth. I think the stat is from May of 2018, so we're citing there over 8 million daily active users. And we apply, and we're used across a diverse set of industries. We have over 1,200 employees in 9 offices worldwide, and our recent funding is up to $1.27 billion from a variety of partners. So I'm in IT, and this is my first time in IT. I've always been in a product organization. And the reason I'm in IT at Slack is because I'm really passionate about the employee experience and making the product better for our internal users. So our mission is to create exceptional technology experiences with Slack at the core. So that means not just building things on top of Slack, but actually seeing the adoption and working with the platform team to make it better. This is my team, application engineering, as I mentioned, and we're responsible for helping scale the business by partnering with sales, marketing, legal, HR, and finance. And I'm sure there are many in the audience who do a similar role. And so we're building tools, we're building bots, we're automating workflows, and building ETL pipelines. So this is what we've been up to in the last couple years. So when I started at Slack, we did not have an integration platform. We just had a PHP box, which was a copy of the Slack web app, the Slack code base, and we would run cron jobs there and just find open source libraries to integrate, to build our integrations with. So we clearly realized that we were not going to be able to scale that way, that we needed commercial support. So we started looking for an integration platform. And so that was at the end of 2016. We looked at MuleSoft, Boomi, Workato, and a little bit at SnapLogic. And what we found was that it was really important that we partner with somebody that could understand our use case, that was really as passionate as we were about creating a really simple experience and basically making it very safe for the users and making it really, what we really like about Workato is you can have a lot of reuse, right? So not just that you're building these recipes, but you can make them modular, and then you can share the recipes and use them for different use cases. So we ended up picking Workato, and here we are. So this is what our ecosystem looks like. Maybe you recognize some of the logos. We have a lot of vendors. There's a lot that are not even on this. It's hard to keep it updated, to be honest. And so 2017 started, and we're like, okay, we have this big task. We're a super small team. There's 2 of us. So we basically started organizing the process, getting really good requirements from the different departments. And we started building on Workato. And it went really well. So we were surprised. One of the first things we did was we helped our partners in learning automate the delivery of training and the management of the training. So we have an LMS called Bridge. And the problem that we had is that people would go and register for courses and then forget all about it because it's 2 months down the road. And then it would be completely filled, but then half of the people would show up, and they would be taking up seats that others could use. And so what we built in Slack was, number 1, notifications to remind you that somebody had enrolled you or you had enrolled a while back. And then what we found out was that it was really easy to integrate with Google Calendar. So from Workato, there's a Google Calendar connector that you can use. And so they also had a calendar entry. And then with Slack, you can put the actions in there and let people decide if they're actually going to attend. And then we were able to present the content that they needed for the course in order to attend. So this is an example of the reminders. So that was just sort of our first proof of concept to get familiar with Workato. And then the next challenge that we had was a little bit larger scale. So what we had to do was we actually didn't have a robust email marketing system. And so once again, we did vendor evaluation, and we ended up picking Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And so now we had to migrate, not migrate, but set up the pipelines to export all of the product data. And we have millions of users and a lot of stats on the usage. To export it to Marketing Cloud, I don't know if people are familiar with that. Marketing Cloud has the ability to segment the data for the different campaigns. And so it was quite the feat to export all this data. But luckily, with Workato, we were able to parallelize the jobs. So we were able to not just load everything in sequence, but actually set up multiple parallel feeds. And then we were able to monitor our own recipes, much like Gotham was explaining. Monitor our recipes as well as connect with Salesforce Marketing Cloud in order to know, hey, we have delivered all of the Slack user data, all of the Slack teams, apps, and so on. We can now segment this audience and actually send the following campaigns, right? And so that was the first time we started looking at how to not just transfer a lot of data, but actually do health monitoring. And then another interesting use case, I didn't build this one of my teammates did, was for deal desk approvals. So previously at Slack, for the longest time, they didn't have a sales team, which is really funny to me. But they had a small one when I started. And so they hadn't really organized how they did the different discounting for customers. And so everything was manual. Things went, we used email to communicate with the customers, and it was just not structured at all. So we brought in Steelbrick CPQ, so the Salesforce team did that. And then that helped us set up the right approvals across the different teams, including legal. But then we didn't want people managing that out of their email, so we brought that into Slack. And so here's an example of a deal. What's really cool about it is that you can go in and it mentions the different people that need to approve, and only they can click the button. So if somebody else clicks it, it's not going to work. So it's doing just-in-time authentication. So if you guys are familiar with OAuth, it's doing the OAuth dance right then and there, only if needed. So that's an example of clicking it, and that's what you would see. And so the business logic is still managed by CPQ, but we were able to bring this process to Slack to have more visibility and be able to react a lot faster. And we built a lot of other integrations. I just want to highlight that. A fun one that I just thought about that we built during a Slack hackathon was I integrated, so I have an Apple Watch, and it tracks activity. So for fun, we integrated human API with Workato, and we were able to get metrics in the Slack channel and basically encourage the team members to do activity. Yeah, that was a fun one. Okay, so then this year, our team at Slack, our IT team, has grown quite a bit. And we have now an official Slack on Slack program is what we call it. We may change the name later, but that's what it's called. So it's about improving, once again, the employee experience through Slack. And so we have a much stricter criteria of what we're going to be building, right? Because it's so fun. You have Workato, you have Slack. You can pretty much spend your day automating tons of things that you can think of. But now we have an official criteria of projects that are more applicable to a wider audience. So one of the key projects that we did this year was streamlining bespoke orders. So previously we had NetSuite, and the RevRec team, or the accountants basically, would go into Salesforce, mark an opportunity as close one, and then manually go into Slack's product and provision it, and then that would talk to NetSuite and provision. But it was all fairly manual. They would then do tweaks and notes on NetSuite, and it was just kind of a mess, right? And this is the basis for ARR, for AOV. And so we really wanted to have a good, strong process around it and automate it. And so that's what my teams worked on for a good portion of this year. So because Slack uses fair billing, that means that we actually need to every day check the usage, unless you're on grid, but every day check the usage to properly draw credits and so on. So it was definitely challenging. We ended up with about more than 100 recipes, including a good portion of recipes that we use for testing this right from Workato. So we have now automated testing that is happening. And so with this, we grew up a lot on Workato. So we now have a development, a staging, a production environment. This is live now. It went well. And it's fully automated, and it creates the contracts and Workday financials and the invoices and provisions and so on. And it was just really fun to work on because the Workday API is like really, really something special. And with Workato, they really abstract all that for us. So that was, we're happy to have that accomplished. And then another fun project was ApprovalsBot. So my boss came to me and said, hey, what if we have a bot that managers can use because, I never remember to approve things that come from Workday or Concur or Coupa because they live in my inbox. So this is the concept of a generic bot that you can hook it up and it will send managers the approvals right in Slack. So I don't know if you can see the details that well, but it's basically, it's not incredibly complex, but it's the beginning of something. So we started with PTO from Workday, and then we're right now, this is work in progress, we're going to be doing expenses also from Workday. So be able, there's a new feature, I don't know if many have heard about this, Slack has Block-It. So you're able to render with a lot more fidelity and flexibility. So this is using Workato and Block-It. So for example, this showcases how extensible Workato is, right? Even though there's a set of actions, I was able to say, hey, we're going to use a custom HTTP action, and we're going to use message templates to define our Block-It. And then the last bot that I want to showcase that we've recently released, this metrics bot. This also uses Block-It, and sorry, most of it is covered up. It's actually a real metrics. So the reason this bot is important is because at Slack, we're very focused on our common goals. And so this post in a channel where all employees are welcome to join, I think it has like 800 people in there. And every day it posts this metrics about how we're performing. And there's always fun comments from Stuart, our CEO, and people sort of cheering. And, it's like a fun place to be. And what's interesting about it is that it's a really common use case. So that was for company metrics, but now we've already taken it and adapted it for the sales team. Because they are trying to meet their quotas and goals. So we're connecting it to exactly on the back end to show attainment goals. Okay, and so that's what we have been up to. And, sort of thinking about the future, a lot of the message from BJ and Gotham really resonates because we're like, okay, we've automated a ton of things. We have all these workflows in Workato and Slack. So, basically we see that apps keep coming. We're constantly going to have to be doing integrations, and there's just more and more data. And so naturally what comes next is let's mine this data, right? So we're already using AI everywhere in the consumer space, but really bringing that to work. And we have, help channels in Slack where We have help finance, help HR. People are always asking the same questions and people are answering. So let's start using some of that information to automatically help people. And, if you are constantly answering, whether you want to approve PTO in a certain way or expenses in a certain way, let's have it learn from that. And so I'm really excited that even before this announcement, Workato has shown that they have the ability to bring your own NLU provider, right? And so this is a new field for me, but I really feel like, this is where we need to focus and just, automated machine learning and just being able to leverage all of these frameworks that are available to have the bots learn. And so, that's my conclusion. Be happy at work. That's it. Thank you.